our next guest who agreed to come and celebrate BBC Music Day with us at BBC Wales and talk about what they've been up to this year a little bit. I've only got a few questions so that we can open it up to the floor, but can we just have a little warm welcome to James Dean Bradfield? So, yeah, welcome to BBC Wales, James. You're not a stranger here. You've probably been here quite a few times by now.
Never been in this room at all.
This is the old orchestra room. It's lovely, isn't it?
No, it's gorgeous. That's going to be gone soon, isn't it?
Yep, knocked down. I remember coming in here and John Cale was working, this lobby for the orchestra was just behind here. It's a shame it's all covered up, actually. And he was working, I think it was Beautiful Mistakes time, and me and Hugh were like kind of in awe of him being here. And I think Hugh tried to say hello to him, and he's notorious for being a little bit grumpy. And he just,
in the morning, especially.
I think he told him in no uncertain terms to get out of the lobby and get out. He was working.
I've kind of vaguely become don't become friends with him. He's one of my heroes, but my first meeting with him was, I got there about 10 minutes late, and I had like a cup of coffee and a cigarette, walked up, oh, please meet me, get that thing away from me now. So I was just, that was my first experience of like, but he was cool with me after that.
So it's lovely to be here in an iconic room in BBC Wales, and one of Wales's busiest and most legendary musicians in the room with us as well to celebrate Music Day, so thank you very much for coming in. So this year it's been about Resistance is Futile. You've been touring quite a bit, but also some special shows. I was trying to list all the things I've kind of seen you do over the year, from the One show to Hyde Park. You were saying it was the Cure, Meltdown as well. What have been the highlights for you, rather than me listing them? What have you enjoyed?
It's been a bit of a stranger as well, because we had to do quite a lot of shows without Nick, because his mother was, obviously very ill, and then she's, subsequently passed away. So some of the gigs have been strange, stuff like doing the Guns N' Roses support slots. They should have been a great experience. And whilst they were okay, it was, it was overshadowed by the fact that Nick wasn't there, and because, obviously he was he was grief-stricken at that point. So that was kind of strange. Doing the Cure Meltdown show was cool, because it's kind of nice. It frees you up when you're kind of doing something and you're enthralled to somebody else, to somebody else's true legendary status, which Robert Smith obviously has got, and kind of doing the cover of In Between Days, which is like, was probably their first proper global hit. It was kind of nice to do that. It kind of makes you realise that there are kind of like other bands out there that have just done it so much better, kind of thing. So that was nice. Just doing the arena tour with the album was cool. Seeing how stuff like International Blue kind of just seamlessly fitted in with stuff like Motorcycle Emptiness, where it became, we know that we're going to be playing that song for a long time. So in a strange kind of way, that was probably one of the best parts of the year, knowing that we'd created a song that people are going to want us to play for the next 10 years or so.
I think my first taste of the album was the wonderful video that you worked on with Kieran Evans, and he obviously worked on the images for the tour as well. But getting the pictures of all the iconic places around Wales, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I was trying to know how many I'd been to see, the Cofiwch Tryweryn stone, and I was literally, I haven't seen half of these in real life. It's a bit like a...
I think I pretty much totted up about the same kind of like the same score as you, really. And that kind of the video for Distant Colours was very much Nicky and Kieran just working together. In many ways, it took Nick a long time to find another video director that he could just have such a good kind of creative partnership with. Before that, there was somebody called Wiz, who'd done a lot of our videos in the past that were, I gotta say, I think were amazing. But then Kieran came along, and him and Nick just seemed to absolutely have the ability to pool their own ideas, have an argument, and not fall out with each other, and just get on with it. They really are perfect creative partners. So yeah, that video was very much down to Nick and Kieran.
It made me think that you've become a band that kind of want to tell people about Wales a little bit, you know?
Well, that song, I think it was more wedded to the song. Obviously, you know, there's quite a few seismic shocks in Wales politically, especially with the head count on the referendum, etc. So kind of like, I think there was a certain sense of people that didn't have a true political home anymore. So that song was trying to kind of like look back into the past and say that not everything is about the kind of the abject confusion of the present. There are things that you can reconnect to in history, and therefore perhaps in the future, you know. Because the song was, it was disguised as a song of two lovers talking to each other, but really it was a person talking to his own political class, saying, why don't we feel part of each other anymore?
Do you remember the first time that Nicky took the Welsh Flag onto stage on the amps? Because when you first started out, it was about the opposite, wasn't it? You were battling against your background and where you were from, and then it kind of turned.
I think Richie was more battling against his background, because Richie was battling against everything. You know, kind of his attitude was, you know, what you're against, well, what you got, kind of thing. I think the main thing with us was we realised we had to leave Wales to do something. We knew we weren't going to have that kind of thing you used to have in the late 80s, early 90s, where you could get a busload of 40 people to come up to London to come and see you from your hometown, because we didn't have any fucking friends. So there's no way we could got 40 people to come on a bus up to London. So that's the main reason why we had to leave. We didn't really have any support down here, because it was a very different time. It was the late 80s, it was early 90s. And Cardiff bands seemed to have the stranglehold on the scene, kind of thing. Well, that's the way we viewed it anyway, being a Valleyite. But kind of, I think, no, kind of, there were still lots of historical touchdowns in the lyrics right up until Everything Must Go. But kind of like, you know, everything, the main thing is that everything we've been taught about that was invested in Wales historically that was good had systematically been destroyed in front of our eyes when we were just about to start writing songs and being a band. So we just thought, we've got to go away to come back. And Nick never left. Nick was always here. I was always living here in Cardiff. You know, Sean was just across the bridge, and Richie was still living here too. So we never really left. But I think when Nick first got the flag up on the stage, I think it was a reaction to the Union Jack of Britpop, I think that's what it was. Because...
good move.
Whilst I'm not a massive fan of people that moan about Britpop, because at the end of the day, really good bands were selling lots of records, you know. I don't think there's anything bad in that, I gotta say. But just the blurification of the image around Britpop was like, you know, greyhound racing and all right geezer. I think, you know, it was a bit of a reaction to that, I think.
The reason I ask is, you know, it's been with you ever since, and it feels like the Manics became a band that around the world were one of the people advocating for Wales, being ambassadors, probably by accident, and music obviously became a huge way of us showing a national identity. And the reason I ask is there's some really big bands out there at the moment that have kind of decided not to do that, with, you know, possibly Bullet and Catfish and people like that, and perhaps they don't feel the onus or the weight of doing that.
No, and I think I've got you know, no problem with that at all. I think we just always felt we were a product of the place we came from. We always felt, for good or, you know, for better or for worse, for good or bad, we felt as if, you know, Wales and the valleys created us, made us the people we were. We were surrounded by politics. We were surrounded by parents that loved politics. My dad was like, you know, head of his union in his work yard when he worked for the council. My mum was really into politics. Nick's parents were really into politics. Richie was really, you know, and it was very much like a post-industrial political mindset that we kind of had. And yeah, we were naive and we were a bit right on and stuff. And then as you get older, you start to kind of like make sense of it all. But the reason the flag is there is because, number one, it's one of the coolest flags in the fucking world because it's got a mythical beast on it. And that's really cool. I love that. I remember Peter Haney had the idea to replace the flag with a kite. What the hell was that about? But kind of, we just felt as if, we owed it something. And not in a massive patriotic sense, but in a sense of, this is where we're from, it formed us.
Well, the other thing I want to challenge you with, so Q Magazine said about this album, the 13th Manic's album, it sounds like you're liberated from the burden of being the Manic Street Preachers. Is it a burden?
I don't know what that means, really.
Do people think that it's a burden? Like, is it because you're different? So?
No, God, no. I think there's I suppose to be fair, I think there's more of a burden on Nick than anybody because he writes the lyrics and everything starts with the lyrics. So, kind of Nick gets that thing in the street where people doorstep and they say, this has happened, the eighth moon landing, why haven't you fucking written about it? Or wherever. And, it's just like, well, no, I always write about what I want to write about. He doesn't do it out of a sense of some kind of pompous civic duty or anything. He just, if something grabs him and clicks, then he goes for it,
Well, we talked about the fact that this album was very much based in Wales, but there was delays in creating that because of the studio situation. But you were telling me about just how many aspects of the album feel like they're grounded here, and as an experience to compare with sort of the studios and places that you've been before as a band. So tell us a little bit about that. Why is it important for you to be based in Wales to create?
Because we all kind of, I suppose we're all, I'm 50 next year, Nick's 50 next year, Sean is 50. Happy birthday, Mauro, about 2 months back. We like being at home and being a band. Now and again we do go away. But since around about 2003, we've done most of our recording in Wales. And there's that kind of thing where, I don't know, early on you always felt as if you needed an orchestra, or you want a lap steel player, or if you wanted a good session singer to do some backing vocals to make it sound different to my voice, kind of thing. You'd go to London. And we discovered that that's not the truth a long time back. People like Cat Williams has done backing vocals on the record. The Vulcan String Quartet, who are from in and around this area, have played nearly all the strings on our record since 2004. People like, obviously, on a different level, Kate LeBon, who's an artist in her own right, and Georgia Ruth, have respectively sung and played harp on our records. Our engineers, kind of like, local Newport boy. We just quickly discovered that you can do it all here, and you don't have to go and pay some exorbitant price up in London. And it's just nice to feel as if you're connecting with other musicians, like the choir on Postcards from a Young Man, the song. I think it was a kind of cobbled together choir from a BBC choir, BBC Wales choir. So all those things, it's nice to think that you can go to work, do it, and then go back home for tea, and then go back to the studio, and somebody hasn't got to travel, from kind of Plymouth or Stafford or Edinburgh, they're on your doorstep, and that's really encouraging. I think on a strange level, Nick has been, because I live in Cardiff and he lives in Newport, he's like, all right, the music's going to be better now the studio's in Newport. He's already got that thing of decentralising the Cardiff music scene. Things do happen outside of Cardiff and all that. So he said, yes, that's it, now we've turned the corner. We're a Gwent band again.
Proper roots then, yeah.
Yeah.
I came to visit the Cardiff Studio, and the top floor was all your memorabilia as a band. It was incredible things that you'd collected, and you were obviously really comfortable there as an inspirational place. Has the new studio, do you feel kind of it's got there? Have you managed to move the vibe? Is the mojo?
No, it feels different, and we are lucky. We're very lucky to have been in a band. We've done 13 records, we've been together for a long time. We're very lucky to have, you know, had the common sense to be in a band with each other, you know, because obviously we were such long-standing friends and family members before we became a band that it's made it easier for us to be so focused, you know. It's kind of, and to actually kind of, you know, we got chucked out of our studio in Cardiff. I mean, Cardiff's becoming an incredibly hard place, you know, to try and record, you know, big noise recorders or sound space where we did the Holy Bible, knocked down. You know, kind of like Faster Studios, knocked down. You know, we kind of took the hint in the end, kind of thing. Yeah, get out. So kind of like, so we thought we would just work harder and just buy a place and try and pay off the mortgage. It feels a bit like bigamy, you know, being in a mortgage with Nick and Sean at the age of like nearly 50. It's quite strange. But like, yeah, you know, we're working towards just paying it off and making sure it works for us. But it feels, it's naturally more of a bucolic surrounding, you know, and it feels calmer. It does feel calmer, definitely.
So events aside, is it still the ethic of, you know, get there, start the working day in the studio and whenever you can?
Yeah, yeah, it's the same, yeah. It's a 20-minute commute for me. I'm a commuter now, which is feels kind of nice, actually. But kind of, there's a really good chippy near there, which is 5-star hygiene rating, which is another one of Nicky's obsessions. If something goes below a 4, he doesn't go there anymore. But kind of like, yeah, it's a really good Marks and Spencer's garage up the top. I'm not being funny, they're all really important, those things, you know. And yeah, it's just really cool. It's remarkable how different it feels. It was a lovely old couple that owned it before, and just the feeling from them seems to have transferred to the place, even though we ripped the guts out of it. It still feels like the place has got a soul. But I do drive past where Faster used to be in Williams Court now and again, and it does make me feel sad. It does, yeah, definitely.
Where's the desk from as well? I'm sure you've told me in the past that that's...
The desk used to be in Rockfield. Farewell to Kings by Rush was recorded on it, Back in the Bunnymen, Simple Minds, Graham Parker and the Rumour, lots of amazing... I think Kilimanjaro, Teardrop Exploders was recorded on it. So it's a lovely old desk, it really is. And it does break down. It just goes... And like, you know, in a week, you've got to take a week off and you've got to fly some specialist in to fix it. But it is lovely. I mean, like the fact that Farewell to Kings by Rush was done on it is probably the reason why we would never get rid of it, I think.
Even though you've got a fly specialist in to look at it. Fantastic. The other project I was excited by was this remix of Ad's Wife. How did that happen this year? Where did that come about?
Just through a mutual friend, really. Actually, the one reason I did accept the offer to do the remix, it was the offer was made by a mutual friend, Alan, that knows them. He just asked if I do a remix, which I've done. I've only ever done about 3 times before, I think. And
not known for your remixes.
Sorry?
To be fair, not known.
No,
for
I'm
your
not.
remixes.
No, I'm not. And anyway, he kind of switched me onto them, and me and Nick have been watching some of their videos of Hyle and Fem and stuff in the studio, and really liked them. Thought they had real, in the musical sense, so they had real chemistry as musicians. There was a lot of, I'd call it old school indie sounds on there, especially the guitars. Love the guitar sounds on there. Love the vocals. Love the way they sang with each other, and just got into them straight away. So when my mutual friend asked if we'd do a remix for them, my natural inclination was to say, yeah, definitely. But the added incentive was it was such a miserable time when he asked me. You know, they just renamed the bridge, you know, Prince of Wales, such a childish thing, you know. It's a miserable moment in Welsh history. And the World Cup was on, and we weren't there. And, you know, I was getting so much jip from a lot of my English mates, which is, you know, all is fair in love and football, you know. Football is based on enmity, basically. So I was pretty miserable, and obviously Nick was not happy at this point because of his mother. So I thought I need to do something to cheer myself up. So I did it, And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it because obviously Gartref is the original single. I love the production on it. I love the engineering on it. You know, I really love the guitar sound to remind me of a Pete Astor guitar sound from the Weather the Prophets or the Loft. Lots of old indie stuff that you wouldn't remember. And I just really liked it, so I thought, yeah, cheer myself up and enjoy it.
So what did you do to it?
Just sped it up a tiny bit, changed the chord structure, though the original chords are in there. I tweaked one of the little vocals so it'd stay in tune with the chord structure. Did lots of programming on it, bass guitar, acoustic, just some like synth strings. Just went to town on it. Just did it over 3 days. It was 3 days of 3-4 hour sessions. Just me and Loz. Actually, me and Loz in the studio did it. Loz had a massive part in it too, and just really enjoyed it. I thought it's nice if you're being offered to remix something that you really like anyway, then that's a really good challenge, you know. I
thought it sounded like you'd play guitar on it, so you're not?
No, I play guitar on it. Okay. Yeah, I play everything on.
Ah, okay. I thought I could recognise the guitar sounds. Which
yeah, no, it was me. Yeah, it was a kind of. I just really enjoyed it. I kind of had a little bit of an '80s vision for it, with a tiny bit of Empire of the Sun in there. So yeah, that was my vision for it. Really. And like I said, there's no point trying to remix something you don't like because you need a challenge of really having to go over, you know, the really high standard anyway. I think that's always the best way to try and do a remix. If the standard's really high, which it was, you know, the actual song, performance, the engineering, production was brilliant. That's the added part of the challenge.
They are a super exciting band and we love having them as part of Horizons this year at Dwight. So I'm going to throw out to the audience now if anybody wants to ask James some questions.